There we go. So Corey, what's the next part we're talking about, mate?
So, Michael, I'm going to ask you directly because I really want to hear your thoughts on this. So, what are the biggest mistakes agencies make when they're trying to scale?
Trying
Marketing
to
agencies.
scale their own agency or trying to
Yes,
sell a client?
yes,
Okay.
their agencies. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I've worked at 3 agencies. I've seen what happens along the journey. And that's why I've been able to grow my company with like no hiccups because it's easy to be successful by not doing the right things. It's about not doing the wrong things. So watching the things that go wrong. I believe from my direct experience, what happens is companies go well for a while, agencies. They've got a really good team that's been there for a while. The different layers of management and humans and specialists are all there, and they've kind of co-created something. And then over time, someone leaves, and then they replace with someone else at a similar level. But then someone else leaves, and then they replace them. So then the dynamics start to change within the teams, interpersonal dynamics, strategic dynamics, and then maybe a few people leave, and then out of a cluster, they're trying to replace those people, but the quality is not as good. But then they have the rationalization that, oh, we'll just train them up. So then as the companies are starting to grow again, then when they're starting to get more clients, they're trying to just fill their internal pipeline of staff members who don't share the same values or strategic ideas or don't have that time frame of experience with the agency's type of clients. Because it's not about the strategies you implement for the client. It's about your business and how your business implements, like operates with the client. So then if you've got different people with different degrees of expertise over time internally, not even skill-based, that's where the disconnect happens. So then as companies start growing as well and they're just hiring people in, the quality starts to get less and less and less of technical skills, but like cultural integration as well. And there's
Yep.
been so many times where someone's gone to me, like clients have gone, yeah, we worked with this agency, or we noticed they were scaling and we didn't want to go with them just because we just knew that we wouldn't be given the time, or like we're just going to be another number on a spreadsheet. I genuinely think it's like, just to start off with, it's the element of people just being replaced and churned through internally, but then the quality and the expertise and that client knowledge gets lost. And when the client knowledge gets lost, no matter how good you are at advertising, that is more important in this day and age than the actual advertising skill as well.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, employee churn is going to be a killer for a lot of businesses, especially agencies, where the person paying the bills for the agency has direct communication with those employees. So you're going to feel it even more when there's a lot of churn. And I've worked with agencies where that was a big thing. They were getting new account reps over and over again, or account managers over and over again, and the client gets frustrated.
Yeah.
And usually that is brought up because they're trying to create systems that can be, sort of infallible, regardless of who is behind the system. And that might be a little overly idealistic because you still need smart minds, humans behind this relation-driven
Yes.
thing that we're doing here in marketing. It's relationship-driven, believe it or not. It's not just the button pushers. There's a lot of button pushers at this point. It's you don't find as many strategic business partners that work in agencies. It tends to be the people that are following a checklist that was made 5 years ago, and they don't feel like there's any autonomy, and they are just kind of like slogging through the day and just can't wait until they can clock out. And I don't know, they kind of end up hating this job because they see it as a job. They don't see it as like this business relationship that's happening.
Yeah.
There doesn't feel like there's a lot of growth. They're just sort of checking things off of a list. So that's my rant on that. I definitely agree.
Any other points, mate? So when you brought this to me, what's been your experience of recent that has brought this up? Well, let's have some group therapy now.
No, nothing like that. I think it's a really relevant topic. I think a lot of agencies, you had mentioned that recently too. You speak to a lot of agencies that they're in growth mode and they want to scale fast, and they use the S word, right? They want to scale fast. They want to grow, but they're running into a lot of issues. And so there's a lot of things that come to mind. I think a big one, we talked about it recently, was inflexible SOPs, standard operating procedures. these things that don't allow for any flexibility at all. So again, that goes back with that point I just made around checklists, these sort of overly standardized processes for everything. Now, if you are packaging this agency to be sold at some point, you need to do that, right? It's just business 101. You've got to get those SOPs in line, but you also need to have some flexibility built in because not every client just fits into this box, right? Not everyone can do it. And if you want to force that, you're going to get subpar or poor results overall.
And real businesses don't want to be just like, oh, we're just going into your cookie cutter approach, because the reality is there's no cookie cutter approach. There's actually no cookie cutter approach. There's principles you can follow, but there's no like, oh, we press this button and we set the cost per click or the ROAS at this much, and then that's it. And that's what most agencies doing. They're trying to look to create what's the holy grail of advertising, or a checklist, or what's the ROAS target we do for fashion in Australia versus fashion in US. And then we do that, and it's like this recipe. And it's like, anyone who actually thinks that's possible is obviously horrible at this, because there is everything. You're treating it like every business is the same. That's so factually incorrect. It's like trying to treat every human the same. Every business is unique. So like that SOP or that inflexible SOP, I've got a lot of mates building out agency, things like that. I'm like, guys, they're doing like all this AI stuff. I'm like, bro, it's not going to work. And it's not working even though they've built it. But I think it's this idealism to try to avoid the downfall of humans, that humans could leave and blah, blah, blah. But what you need is a better management system and maybe a better internal reporting system to keep an eye over all the accounts, and maybe a flagging system of when things are outside of KPIs that you and the client have set, not just because of you've just set some random arbitrary number that applies to all businesses and all clients. Right. So I definitely agree with the SOP part, because I hear that so much, and I'm like, and these are the companies that are constantly churning clients. So they're trying to fix something to fix the churning, but the thing that they're doing to try to fix the churning is enhancing the churning, because it's not actually fixing the real problem here. Yes. And the real problem is a lack of real integration with the client, and a lack of like providing the right service to the client and having the right person implement it for the client as well.
Yeah. Look, I think it's an understandable problem to have, or at least that's how they see it, as a sort of problem of standardizing everything. And they just seem to keep failing and retrying and recreating new things over and over again. I think it's because you do see a lot of content, a lot of advice around systems thinking.
Yeah.
Doesn't apply completely and wholly to the practice of what we're doing here in terms of digital marketing. This isn't a McDonald's, no shade on McDonald's, but this isn't something where you go walk over here when this timer goes off, push this button, take this thing out, put it here, because every customer walking through the door is just hungry. They don't have all these unique needs. They're just hungry, and that's pretty much it. This is way different. This has every client, every customer that walks in your door wants a menu that makes sense for their needs. They're not looking for, like you said, some cookie cutter, like, I'll just take a large fry and a burger and a milkshake. Most companies don't want that, because they didn't start the business that way. Yeah. They're not looking at their own business that way. They're looking at, how can we be strategic? How can we create a custom product or service in the marketplace to serve unique needs? They're also expecting you to do that too. So when you're trying to apply this overly systems, forward manufacturing line systems thinking to marketing, you're going to have a tough time. So I think that's where you've got to build in flexibility, to your point around flags, in your processes. Don't think about it as you're ever just going to reach 100% automation. If you've done that, you've actually probably failed, maybe not your agency in the short term, but probably later. But you probably have failed the client, in my opinion.
Because you're treating them all the same. It's like if you treated every student in a classroom the same. You treated everyone in university the same. Like, it's every business is unique and have different issues at different times. And that's the thing. It's not like you hit this like point of breakthrough and then you've always succeeded. It's like, what happens when things go wrong? Right. You've got to actually use critical thinking, because most problems are unique problems, which you can't program unique problems into a software that hasn't happened before. So then where's the critical thinking? Where's the direct experience coming from? Right. Look, you want to use these technologies to replace things that you're already doing to an extent or give insights or flag things. But if you're doing it to replace the human element, the expertise, the strategy, I think that's where a flaw ultimately happens. And it's like, why wouldn't you just train up your team to a certain level of like, this is how we operate. These are our guiding principles. These are our guiding values. This is how we tend to operate around clients. And within that, like, let's just say those, buffers, you can operate and be creative within there because you're leveraging the company's direct experience over X amount of time that has delivered actual results to your clients. Now, the big issue is so many companies are like, oh, like I heard this agency's doing that. Let's just put that into our system. But it's like, you haven't even verified if it works. Most of the time, most strategies do not work because number one, people are talking about outlier experiences, being an outlier data based on a short period of time for one client, not most of their clients most of the time. Number two is that it's actually just marketing material that's kind of bullshit that's been rehashed from other people's stuff and it sounds good. Like I could be like, Cory and I have built this like AI software based on our 20 years collective combined advertising experience. We've got all of our client calls. We've got all the client strategies and data we've put into this AI tool and it works 90% of the time. Like if you've been watching the podcast, you'll love this. I promise you'll love it. We'll give you a free trial for like a day and then it's $1,000 a month. Most people would be like, wow, that's amazing. I'll do that. They can't verify it. They haven't seen our accounts. Cory, I've never really seen any of your accounts, mate. You haven't seen mine. It's like at the end of the day, you're just taking people's word for a lot of things. And most people's word is their marketing material, not their actual direct experience with clients and them actually explaining, hey, this has gone pretty poorly recently because of this, this, and this. This is what we recommend. People don't talk about their low lights. They talk about like their fake highlights that have been polished and then like put through the rinser and now there's something completely different.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thing about SOPs is because I think they're inflexible because they're actually based on false premises, not actual direct experience of the company.
It's funny because it also lends to the other side of this where you see this often of over pivoting. They're like, oh, I just saw this new thing. We need to change these SOPs. Oh, I just saw this other new thing. We need to change our SOPs. And then as an employee, you're like, oh my goodness, like when is, Bob and Linda, whatever your boss, like, when are they going to stop with the new tool every month? And when are we going to can I just, and like, you don't want to be put into a box as an employee to say these are all the checklists, but when it is totally taking you off your game and your focus and these clients that you're managing, their businesses, what their goals are, how to do this, and your higher ups are constantly coming to you every week, every month, and they're like, guys, we got to try this new project management tool. It seems like now all of a sudden you got to unfocus from the thing that's making the business money and that's giving you fulfillment and purpose in your job, but you're actually getting paid for. You got to go on board. You got to do these you got to go through these slide decks that these SaaS companies are going to send you. You're now taking away from what the agency is built to do, which is to provide a service. Yeah. So I think that's another thing that's a really common mistake, just over pivoting every month, every week. They see some new content, they get all excited about it. So the shiny object syndrome. And all of a sudden, it's just like you're driving your employees. And they'll never tell you this because they don't want to get fired and they don't want to get on your bad side. But you got to be careful about the over pivoting. You got to feel somewhat confident with the systems you're building. And again, stop over focusing on tools and do over focus on principles. What are the things that have not changed for a long time that are going to be the 80-20 of getting results for these clients? And how can we improve the relationships that we have? So not only are we just focusing on sales, which tends to happen at scale, but also focusing on retention and making sure everybody that is doing this job is fulfilled and happy and they're enjoying what they're doing and they're feeling like they're learning too, instead of just learning a new tool that came across your desk.
Definitely. Yeah, you've got to set up buffers. And those companies like, we've got to start doing this new thing. And it's like they're just picking it up from somewhere else rather than going, hey, we've been doing this internally for a while, but it's not really part of our process, but it keeps getting really good results. Why don't we see if we actually proactively do it for the next month on all of our clients to see what the actual uptick is in terms of results or client relationships or communication styles? That's what we do. It's like everything we've advanced so fast in have come from just self-reflection going, what's actually working really well for us? And how do we put that into a framework? And more importantly, what's causing us a lot of trouble and drama and stress and going, hey, how is that happening? Do we need to put a process in the point to stop that? And usually the team will like this side more because they're facing all the stress. They're facing it. So if we go, hey, like, what's all the problems we're having with clients? Okay, cool. That's not part of our scope of work. We never agreed to that. So like, let's just create a barrier now to go, we don't do that. And that's a big thing that happened with us. We realized that we're doing a lot of out of scope work for clients. It was doing about 80% of our time was on out of scope work that we didn't enjoy doing. We never agreed to really doing. And then it was just like this thing. And then since we've just gone, no, we don't do that anymore. Our company's revenue's gone up. The time working on clients has significantly decreased because we're just doing the damn thing we agreed on. So you can learn from the things you're doing well, but also the things that are not working from you, that's probably a better place because the team's more likely to take on board things that make them less stressed, which is the saying no to things now rather than going, oh, another thing we need to do. It's more another thing we don't need to do now.
Yes. And that's funny because that's a great caveat and a good point to make is a tool. If you're getting a tool and you're integrating a new tool into your processes, it should be solving a very clear need. Like you guys are not able to serve these types of clients, or you just don't have the employees with that level of skill set. You need to, you want to create the bridge between those things because again, the whole idea is to better serve the client, not just to help the agency. But I think a lot of agency owners can really kid themselves because they're like, no. I mean, we need a different project management tool because I mean, now we went from 10 to 11 employees, and they did say once we get past 10, we should start looking into these other PMs. It's like. Is that going to provide a better service or relationship with the client? Like, are the clients going to get better results? Is it going to help improve the relationship with the client? If not, maybe put it on hold for later and have that be something that you bring up at a different point when that specific need is very necessary.